Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
After legalization, San Francisco to pardon and wipe out thousands of pot convictions. As half the country continues to kidnap, cage, and kill people over marijuana, California is setting a revolutionary precedent by wiping the records of thousands of otherwise innocent with pot convictions. By the Free Thought Project, February 1, 2018. San Francisco CA, RT, the San Francisco District Attorney's Office has begun a process to expunge weed-related convictions from thousands of criminal records. At a media conference Wednesday, San Francisco District Attorney George Gascon estimated that his office will immediately dismiss 3,038 marijuana-related misdemeanors and begin reviewing another 4,940 marijuana-related felonies to be reclassified as misdemeanors. Today I'm announcing that the San Francisco District Attorney's Office proactively will be dismissing misdemeanor cases, sealing the records of those who were convicted for marijuana offenses, Gascon said. He said because of the time and money it takes to petition the courts, there have only been around 20 people in San Francisco and 4,885 in the state who have started the process to have their cannabis convictions reversed. Laura Thomas, the executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance, said there are more than 1 million Californians who could benefit from having their records expunged. Advertisement. The district attorney said his office was motivated to make proactive changes after more than 75% of San Franciscans voted to pass Proposition 64. The voter initiative not only legalized the recreational use of marijuana for adults 21 and older, but also allowed anyone with a past marijuana conviction to petition state courts to recall or dismiss their case. The voters are giving us, as elected officials and as public officials, a clear direction, Gascon said. They're tired of the war on drugs, they do not believe that was the right path to follow, and now it's up to us to ensure that we not only implement the letter of the law, but also the spirit of the law. Gascon said individuals who are eligible will not have to hire a lawyer or file any petitions as their cases will be attended to without any action on their own. The process will take no hearings, people will not have to hire attorneys, they will never have to come to our courts, Gascon said. Everything will be done proactively here, by the DA's office. Jeff Sheehy, a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, applauded the district attorney's office for removing a significant barrier that people had to go through to get their convictions expunged themselves. By proactively doing this, I think you've taken a huge burden off of people who, frankly, were unjustly convicted and unjustly arrested, Sheehy said. In order to provide a clean slate for many Californians, Gascon said the district attorney's office will not only expunge conviction records, but will also expunge arrest records for those who are eligible. The district attorney said he thinks it might take them about a year to get the work done, explaining that it will take his office some time to process the felony convictions through the courts. Under Proposition 64, certain individuals with serious offenses, such as murder or rape charges, would be disqualified from having their convictions expunged or reduced. The district attorney said his office was proactively expunging the convictions as a way to right so many of wrongs that have been caused by the war on drugs. We want to address the wrongs that were caused by the failures of the war on drugs for many years in this country, and begin to fix some of the harm that was done, not only to the entire nation but specifically to communities of color and many others, Gascon said. RT America. Heavy checkmark. At RT_America. Kansas lawmaker regrets saying African Americans respond the worst to marijuana due to genetics. https://on.rt.com/8wgs. 4:06 p.m., January 9, 2018. 11 reply 1515 retweets 1919 likes. Twitter adds info and privacy. The tax revenue obtained from marijuana sales in San Francisco will also be reinvested in communities most harmed by the war on drugs. The promise of Prop 64 was that we would use the legalization of adult use of marijuana in order to help repair some of the damages that have been done, primarily to communities of color in the state by the war on drugs, Thomas said. Become a patron.
This is my left. So why not?
Hi everyone. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Very quickly, just some quick introductions, and everyone will have an opportunity to talk. But Supervisors Boren and Sheehy were invited because they were part of the leadership, the Board of Supervisors, in really dealing with the equity issues concerning the legalization of marijuana. We also have with us Reverend Browns, who needs no introduction. He's the head of the NAACP in San Francisco. Nicole Elliott, who is the director of San Francisco Office of Cannabis. And we have Laura Thomas, who is a good friend and part of the Drug Policy Alliance. And we'll say a few words. We'll let everybody else speak, and then certainly we'll answer any questions that any of you may have. But I want to begin by saying that while the national government has taken a direction sort of going backwards when it comes to drug policy, here in San Francisco, again, we have an opportunity to lead the way. We want to address the wrongs that were caused by the failures of the war on drugs for many years in this country, and begin to fix some of the harm that was done not only to the entire nation, but specifically to communities of color and many others. Last years, as you well know, in San Francisco and around the state, Proposition 64 passed overwhelmingly. In San Francisco by 75% of the vote, which meant that marijuana would be legalized for recreational purposes. Californians, as I do, believe that the war on drugs was a failure and that we needed to move in a different direction. I believe that long ago we lost our ability to distinguish the dangerous from the nuisance, and it has broken our pocketbooks, the fabric of many of our communities, and we have not been any safer for it. Prop 64 is a big step in the right direction, but it won't be easy to undo the damage that has been caused by the war on drugs. For the employment of many in our communities, for housing, and many other benefits, it would take a long time to unwind the damage. In fact, it is estimated that from 1915 to 2016, almost 2.8 million Californians were arrested by law enforcement for cannabis-related offenses. Prop 64 provides a path for people to be able to begin to unwind that. However, there are issues with it. According to the Drug Policy Alliance, only 4,885 Californians have petitioned state courts to have their cannabis evictions convicted. The process created under Prop 64 was well-intentioned, but it requires that people are aware of the relief. They also have to hire attorneys. They have to petition. So it's a time-consuming process that can also be expensive. When nearly 75% of San Franciscans voted to legalize marijuana, we're not going to stand by and not take action to continue to roll this and provide the relief that many San Franciscans believe that should be provided. As progressive as San Francisco is, a misdemeanor or a felony conviction for marijuana can have significant implications on your employment ability, housing, education, and many other benefits. So instead of waiting for people to petition, for the community to come up, we have decided that we will do so ourselves. Today I'm announcing that the San Francisco District Attorney's Office proactively will be dismissing misdemeanor cases, sealing the records of those that were convicted for marijuana offenses, and we will also be able to provide relief without necessarily people having to file for it, without having to hire attorneys. We will do all the work for them. Interestingly enough, last year we sponsored Senate Bill 393 with Senator Lara from LA, and in that bill provided that when someone had their conviction sponged, they could also petition to have their arrest sponged. Because one of the things that we noticed is that you could have a conviction sponged, but you still had an arrest record. So the combination of what we're doing here today through Prop 64 and Senate Bill 393 will provide a clean slate for many Californians. Those that are eligible for a recall will be attended to without any action on their own. We estimate that approximately 3,038 misdemeanors will be immediately dismissed, and there will be approximately 4,940 felonies of convictions here in San Francisco that will be reviewed, and in the cases that is appropriate under Prop 64, those will be resentenced to misdemeanors. The process will take no hearings. People will not have to hire attorneys. They will never have to come to our courts. Everything will be done proactively here by the DA's office. We believe that it's the right thing to do and it's a just thing to do. And that's why we're here today with so many other partners that believe in the same things that we do in order to right so many wrongs that have been caused by the war on drugs. I'd next like to turn it over to Supervisor Cohen, and then we'll have Supervisor Sheehy, and we'll have everyone that wants to say a word.
Thank you.
Supervisor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here for this incredibly important announcement. The reason why I came to join this announcement is really because I wanted to uphold and to applaud the work that the District Attorney's Office is doing here in San Francisco. Because it's this office that is leading the conversation across the entire country. It was our District Attorney, George Gascon, that started the conversation back in 2013 and 2014, leading a successful ballot initiative. And it is, here we are today, standing before all of you post Prop 64 with the legalization of adult use cannabis. And what we are here to celebrate and to share with you is that it's the marrying, quite frankly, of our political ideology finally in lockstep with our policy. So what the District Attorney is expressing and announcing today is that there are thousands of cases that people are going to be dismissed at no cost. So that means my constituents and Supervisor Ronin's constituents and President Breed's constituents and some of Supervisor Safai's constituents and Supervisor Kim's constituents, those people that have been most adversely affected by the war of drugs, get a little bit of a break from a system that has been systematically targeting African American, Latino, Pacific Islander communities since the 80s. Now, this, of course, does not absolve all of our responsibility, but this is a small step, and I think a step in the right direction. Further, it also goes hand in hand with the equity program that we fought for at the Board of Supervisors. And I want to recognize the leadership with Jeff Sheehy at the board, and also Nicole Elliott with the new Office of Cannabis. You see, this is not just about talking, but also about making sure our walk and our talk are congruent with each other. Now, there's been a lot of hypocrisy lately. As you know, I've been talking about the hypocrisy. But this is a proud moment, because this is a moment where we're not being hypocritical. We've said that we have these San Francisco values where we have wrongly prosecuted and targeted systematically entire communities that have decimated families for generations. And now we're saying the laws have changed. We recognize the mistakes that were made, and this is a small step to bring justice to an unjust system. So I'm excited, I'm delighted to be here, and again, I want to applaud all of your staff that have made this possible. And you know what, I want to encourage other cities and counties in the state of California and beyond to really begin to dig deep and to move in that same direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jeff.
Thank you. And I do want to salute the district attorney for taking this proactive step. The fact that people had to apply to get their convictions and had to hire a lawyer to get their convictions expunged is really a significant barrier. And so by proactively doing this, I think you've taken a huge burden off of people who frankly were unjustly convicted and unjustly arrested. I also want to salute Supervisor Cohen for her equity program, because that's the other half of trying to redress, frankly, what can never be redressed: an unjust arrest, an unjust conviction that's traumatizing. It destroys your life for something that really should not have ever been a crime. I don't know how many people saw the famous conversation with Richard Nixon in the early 70s where they released the tape where he said, you know, we're going to start the war on drugs because we're going to get that'll allow us to target blacks and hippies. And the destructions that have been done to communities over that several decades is just unimaginable. But I do want to really salute Supervisor Cohen for her equity, for bringing forward a robust equity program, because at least by creating a pathway for those who did suffer so much from the war on drugs, for them to be able to economically participate in what looks like is going to be a huge industry, I think is a great step forward to trying to redress that wrong. So it's tremendous work on her part. And just as a sidebar, I think it's kind of ironic that Dennis Perone passed away on Saturday, the father of medical cannabis, which led us to Prop 64. It'll be interesting to see how many convictions of his get expunged, because I think that there's a bunch.
Those that occurred in San Francisco will be sponged.
Those that occurred in San Francisco, yeah. Anyway, but thank you, District Attorney Gascon, and thank you, Supervisor Cohen.
Reverend Brown?
My friends, I am very pleased to say that as president of the San Francisco branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and as pastor of the historic Third Baptist Church here in the city, where I've pastored now for 42 years, it is a rarity that this city has been blessed with a public servant in the personhood of our District Attorney, George Gascon, who even when he came to this town to be police chief, he came across, and the NAACP embraced him as one who had a sense of fairness, justice, decency, and progress. So I'm not surprised that he's taken this bold step. Let me say, against the backdrop of my other hat as a pastor, Luke chapter 4 speaks of the prophet from Nazareth saying that he had been anointed to set the captives free. I liken this as being an anointment of you to set the African-American captives who've been victims of an unjust criminal justice system, denied equality of opportunity, and more importantly, their humanity and their presence not being respected in this town. I feel that this is a giant step toward justice, and it is a stride toward setting black people free to live in community, to have jobs, to have health care, to have decent education, and we just need to keep this good thing a-rolling. Because San Francisco has got to deal with its acclaimed reputation of being progressive and liberal. But the facts have not revealed that. And that's the reason why. As a pastor, I come often to the halls of justice. I go out to San Bruno, and it looks like the Fillmore, like Chocolate City, followed by brown young people who should be at home, who should be on jobs, who should be in school. Now it's the responsibility that once these persons' records are expunged, the trade unions open the door so these black and brown young men and young ladies can get jobs in this work that's going on to improve the infrastructure in this city. We need to make sure also that these people who've been enslaved, who've been trapped for years, are set free to get quality education. And finally, that they have a place to lay their head. Decent, affordable housing. So thank you again, Brother Gascon, for having the courage to do the right thing.
Thank you, Reverend. Nicole. Next, I'd like to introduce Nicole Elliott. She is the director of the San Francisco Office of Cannabis. Nicole is really taking a very proactive approach to implementing the structure and the benefits that Prop 64 can bring to our city, and she has been a leader in this area, and we wanted to recognize her and give her an opportunity to speak. Nicole?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As we all know, the federal government, state governments, and even local governments have participated in the war on drugs, and San Francisco is no different. We've been in the business of creating inequality previously. Our equity report did spell that out. With the successful passage of Prop 64, we saw a monumental state mandate to decriminalize cannabis and address the collateral impacts of the failed war on drugs on our communities. Our equity report specifically called out the streamlining of the expungement process as one thing that we as a city could do to remove barriers to jobs, ownership opportunities, housing, and education. Government now has a responsibility of being in the business of creating equity, and I applaud the DA's proactive participation in this effort. And just like he is doing, and just like Supervisor Cohen did, it is my hope that this same effort is replicated across the state by other DAs so that we can have more people realize the benefits of equity in their communities. And I also encourage other city departments to do the same here in San Francisco.
Thank you, Nicole. And last but not least, I want to bring Laura Thomas from the Drug Policy Alliance. Laura has been a partner to this office since I have been the DA. We have worked across the board in the reform of many different policies, both at the local and the state level. And the impact and her passion and her commitment to this work is unparalleled. I'd like to bring Laura over. Laura, please.
Thank you. Apologies for my voice. I'm getting over a cold, but I wanted to thank the district attorney for taking this action in order to fully achieve the promise of Prop 64. When we first started working on what became Prop 64 from the Drug Policy Alliance, it was extremely important that whatever we did be retroactive. It doesn't feel like justice to change the laws for some people and leave other people in jail cells, leave other people with the implications of having a felony charge or a misdemeanor conviction even on their record. So this is the promise of Prop 64 was that we would use the legalization of adult use of marijuana in order to help repair some of the damages that have been done primarily to communities of color in this state by the war on drugs. One of the ways that repair happens is through using the tax revenue from adult use sales to reinvest in the communities that were most harmed. But another and extremely important part of repairing that damage is the expungement of previous convictions. So we are very grateful that so many elected officials here in San Francisco have wanted to move forward and make that as easy to access as possible. The Board of Supervisors, for their leadership on developing the equity program for identifying this, our District Attorney, George Gascon, Public Defender, Jeff Adachi, and other folks here in the city who've been really moving forward with this. Excuse me. We recognize, as you heard, our numbers that only several thousand people have actually managed to expunge their records when we know that there are more than 1 million Californians who could benefit from having their records expunged. We're extremely grateful for the leadership from District Attorney Gascon and hope that more district attorneys across the state also see their way clear to following this leadership and automatically moving forward with these kinds of expungements. This is what justice looks like. This is what it's going to take to repair some of the extraordinary damage that's been done to all of our communities and families and individuals, but particularly to communities of color and particularly to the African American community by the war on drugs. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We're now open for any questions you may have for any of us. Yes.
Nick from Courthouse News Service. How much will this initiative cost in financial and staff resources?
So the misdemeanor part of it will be fairly simple, and we're doing all the work ourselves. There is no question that as we move into the felony arena, that requires a little more work because we actually have to go through Prop 64 and make sure that the drug conviction is not disqualified from relief by some other convictions. And we're working with our partners in the city to make sure that we get the support necessary. But I don't anticipate that it will be a huge commitment. I think this is something that will be that will go fairly smoothly. And I think it's important for us to look at the balance, right? Do we, as the government, take care of redressing a wrong that was started in many ways by government, or do we put this burden on individuals, often people that cannot afford to hire an attorney, come to court, go through the whole process? So what we want to make sure that we do is that we look at this not only from a just point of view, but we also want to look at it from a good public policy. And I believe that a good public policy dictates that we do what we're doing. Yes?
Prop 64 had some safeguards in place for violent offenders who may have only been convicted on the marijuana charge. Is that one of the things your office is going to be reviewing for the felony cases?
Yeah, so when we review the cases, we're going to be taking a very detailed look when you're getting into the felony world. Number one, any other convictions? I mean, there are clearly some people that are right off the board, they're disqualified, right? If you were convicted of murder or rape, a lot of the serious offenses. We're also going to look at the totality of their history. However, what we want to make sure is that the people that were really the victims of the war on drugs in general terms, and are people that are trying to get their life in the right direction, that they get the relief that they deserve. We have damaged a lot of people in our community. We damaged a lot of people in this country. And while I don't believe that this is going to fix all the damage that was done, I think we morally have an obligation to start undoing some of the damage that was done.
Do you have any sense of the timeline here for getting these cases expunged or records expunged?
So the misdemeanors will be fairly quick, right? The felonies are going to take a little more work, and that is a process that we also have to work with the courts. The courts also have, a piece of this, and frankly, we also want to reach to the Attorney General. We believe that they will need to do some work on their end to actually, remove things from people's criminal record at their end. So it's a combination of things, and we're not working with everybody. But again, I think it's important, not to get sidetracked on whatever the cost may be. I think that we need to look at where we've been, how we got here. Prop 64 overwhelmingly passed in California. In this county, over 75% of the voters voted yes for Prop 64. The voters are giving us, as elected officials and as public officials, a clear direction. They're tired of the war on drugs. They do not believe that that was the right path to follow. And now it's up to us to make sure that not only do we implement the letter of the law, but more importantly, we implement the spirit of the law.
So essentially,
I'll get to everybody.
Can you tell me how many people have sought to have their records expunged so far? How many people have taken the initiative to
Yeah, in San Francisco, it's only a handful. It's a little over 20. Statewide, it's about 4,800. I think it's a combination of things. Number one, a lot of people are not aware that they can get this done. One, and two, quite frankly, people that are aware may not be able to afford to get it done. And we don't believe that this should be predicated on your ability to hire an attorney or even to have a pro bono attorney do this. We should just do it. You should not have to come to court, miss a day of work, go through all that hassle that unfortunately is often part of the in the legal system. I'll get all of you guys, but I'm trying to get you in order, so I saw your hands. Yeah.
Do I have this right, about 5,000 people, 8,000 people in San Francisco that this could apply to?
Roughly. We got a little over 4,800 that have felonies and about 3,000, a little over 3,000 that have misdemeanors, so it's somewhere.
The same person.
Yeah.
If I were one of those people, how long might I expect this process to take? When might my record be clear?
Yeah, so the misdemeanors we're moving immediately. We're already trying to do this quite frankly in batches. The felonies is going to take a little more time, but I don't want to guess at this point, but I think within a year our work will be done. I think there are other components, right? We have to make sure that at the state level that what they need to do is also being done. So what we want is we want to get the ball rolling, and quite frankly, we want to impact public policy across the state. We're hoping that what we're doing here not only will benefit San Francisco, but that other elected officials around the state will say this is the right thing to do. I think if we all come together, we can do this very quickly. Yes.
So when you're looking at these cases, I'm assuming possession would be out, but possession with intent to distribute, would you also be throwing those out?
Right, so those are the felonies, like if you have cultivation or possession with intent to distribute, those are the ones that we have to take a second, it's a second layer of review, because we have to determine whether there are other offenses that are connected to that under Prop 64 would not qualify for relief, right? So it's a more detailed review. Most of them, though, I assume that there will be, those felonies will be downgraded to misdemeanors, which is still a tremendous amount of relief. I saw your hand at the end, and I'll keep coming. I'm going to get everybody, so, yeah.
You just mentioned the courts will play some role in this. What will that be?
I'm sorry?
You just mentioned the courts will play some role in this process. What is that going to be like?
Well, we're starting immediately on the misdemeanors. So we actually have been looking at this for several weeks, trying to do the accounting. That's why I'm able to tell you what the numbers are. We have been evaluating this work, so it's not like I just woke up this morning and said I'm going to have a press conference and do this. We actually have been very deliberate about this process.
Of that 8,000 number, how many of those people are currently incarcerated?
I don't know the answer to that because they may have been now incarcerated for other offenses. Right, for the offenses that we're looking at, very unlikely, but they may be incarcerated for some other offenses. Yes.
Prop 64 did pass the voters to approve that, but cannabis also has a budget. Will you be working to receive some of those funds to help assist you?
Well, I think it's early. We're certainly going to work with Director Elliott to see what the things that may be assisting us. But I don't want to, I want to be a good shepherd of public resources too. I don't want to just simply go out and say we immediately see this as a Christmas tree that we're going to start hanging requests for more money. We may have to, but I want to be very thoughtful about how we do that. You had your comment?
Yeah, Assemblyman Rob Bonta has a bill in the state legislature seeking to do effectively what you're doing here in San Francisco. Do you hope this will sort of get the ball rolling in other jurisdictions? And are you aware of any other jurisdictions that have come out publicly?
Yeah, so let me answer the second part of your question. I'm not aware of anybody else in the other 58 counties, or the other 57 counties. I am familiar with Assemblyman Bonta's legislation. We're supportive of the concept. I believe that is still going through, the development of legislation, but it hasn't even gone through committee. And I don't think this is an area that we should wait for legislation. I think especially elected DAs can do this on their own. I don't need to have, another legislation to tell me I can do this. I have Prop 64. So while we're supportive of that, and in some cases I'm sure that's what it's going to cost other people to act, I'm hoping that many more will just simply act on their own volition. Yeah.
Is this going to result in a series of court hearings per person, or is this a largely clerical work that's going to be done behind the scenes?
Will not. We want to avoid the people having to come for court hearings. We'll be doing this through just kind of a process within the court system without having to have hearings, attorneys, other than obviously our attorneys will be handling this. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so are these misdemeanors going to be cleared from people's records as well?
The misdemeanors will be clear almost immediately. We're just going to do those very quickly. The felonies is the one that requires a little more analysis because we have to, under Prop 64, not every felony qualifies to be reduced to a misdemeanor. It depends on what other offenses the person has. So we have to look and see whether we can reduce the felon to a misdemeanor, and that's an individualized review.
And how many people are you going to be assigning to work specifically on this from your office or in general?
Yeah, I think this is evolving, right? At the early stages, we're really talking about a lot of paralegal work, which we're very short in that area. But we will evaluate as we start reviewing the felonies, and we also need to talk to the courts and see the impact that they will have. They will have an impact, and we have to be mindful of their impact. Yeah.
And how would these people be notified that their record has been expunged?
Yeah, I hope that you guys are the ones that are putting out the work. I mean, if you got a misdemeanor, you could probably look it up in a few months and see where it is. We'll definitely run it for you and take a look at it, but they're not going to have to do anything. Okay, they don't have to come in. They don't have to file any papers. we're proactively doing all this work. Yes.
Will those people be notified that their records are being cleared? from the
You know,
record?
I'm not sure because, you know, some of those convictions are old, and we may not have good addresses. We, quite frankly, some people may not be around anymore, right? So I think it's going to be a combination. We're going to be doing a lot of public announcement that this is happening, and then, you know, those that are interested in finding out will probably maintain some kind of information level, you know, and I'm just saying this off the cuff. My people may shoot me, but we'll put something on our website. You know, we'll evaluate. Yeah, I may go out. What are you talking about? You know, I just came up with that. But you know, we may just actually post it on our website. Just kind of put the names there so people can look up. Yeah.
You mentioned 2.8 million arrests since 1915 in California. Yeah. Are you going to go back that far in San Francisco?
We will go as far back as our records allow us to go back.
Which is
1975. 1975. I mean, the reality is 1915 arrests probably just people are not around anymore, although some are, you know. I mean, I happen to have a very elderly grandma, so. But yeah, we're going to where we can.
Right.
Yeah.
Same question.
Sure.
How will this affect misdemeanor cases still working its way through the court system?
We do not, as of today, there are no open, actually not as of today, but we have no open misdemeanor marijuana cases in San Francisco. We have about 23, I think it's 23 petitions actually under Prop 64. And that will, you know, obviously those will be granted if appropriate, but we have not been prosecuting these cases. Any other questions?
Yeah, President Trump talks about prison reform and reforming because all the things that have been happening. Will you be reaching in that direction to get support?
To President Trump?
Put money on the President Department, you know.
Well, look, I don't want to get too overly political here, right? But our Attorney General, who is appointed by the President, has made public statements that he believes that marijuana is enemy number one. You know, marijuana continues to be a Schedule I drug under federal law. Just very recently, there were statements made out of the Attorney General's office that they are going to go off to the states that have legalized marijuana, which I find interesting given that most of these folks believe in state rights. But if you're a believer in state rights, the people in the state have spoken. But I understand that that sometimes is a concept that is used conveniently when it fits your ideology, and when it doesn't, then it doesn't apply. So I don't know that we're going to get a lot of help from the federal government, but I welcome all help. Quite frankly, if the President would like to fund our effort to do this, I would be very pleased, and I would certainly give him the recognition. Any other? Thank you very much, everyone.
County, this is Sharon, the County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me, and I'm sick of it. So I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, you know, if I got, you know, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.